Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Freelance Success Framework podcast series. Hey, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Okay, guys. Now, if you have been listening and you think, you know what, I'm kind of on board with this whole freelancing thing, having control of my schedule, my income, what work I do, how much I earn, when I work, all that stuff actually does sound kind of great. And yes, they've convinced me that actually freelancing is not risky. It's just the way that some people try to do it that is risky. That if you have a system that you use, a proven, repeatable system, that freelancing is not risky. If we have convinced you of all of this at this point, you may be saying to yourself, well, okay, I'm sold on the concept of freelancing, but how much opportunity out there is there? I'm going to go into freelancing and am I going to try to pitch myself to clients? Because we've also sold you on the concept of pitching clients in a value-based way. Am I going to try to pitch myself to clients and there aren't going to be any clients for me to pitch to? Great concern, yes. But also great news.
We got some numbers. We've got some math.
There's a ton of opportunity. Yeah. Before we get into the actual numbers, I just want to read you this actually really the title of a Forbes.com article. And then I'll read just one line from it. It's an article by a writer named John Younger, who writes about freelancing. So he's very well versed. But he says, the freelance revolution has a supply problem, not a demand problem. And essentially what he's saying is, without, and actually this is a quote, nevertheless, without significantly increasing the participation of full-time freelancers, this revolution, the freelance revolution, won't reach escape velocity anytime soon. So again, what he is saying is what he's seeing in these industries and across industries is there is much more need for freelancers, and especially, frankly, full-time freelancers, than there are freelancers to accommodate that need, to meet that need. Kate, what are those numbers? You know I love a number.
Yes, and I will add to that too. I think even with the freelancers out there, we talked earlier about the level of professionalism. And I would say, there's no numbers behind this part, but even there's not enough freelancers, but there's also not enough good freelancers is an even bigger point.
Well, and first, there aren't enough skilled in whatever industry that you're in. But even within the skilled, there aren't enough professional who know how to be a partner, who are able to get repeat work because clients are like, oh yeah, this is a great person to work with. Now, there are a lot of freelancers who make it very difficult to work with them.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So numbers though. So the most recent statistics we have on this are from 2019, but that said, that's not that long ago.
No, and I also
bet there's just a higher volume now than there was even then.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, before we get into numbers from 2019, I know people are going, oh, well, but there was a pandemic. And depending on when you're listening to it, maybe we're still in the pandemic. When we're recording, we're still in a bit of one. But there are a lot of freelance students we worked with, who started their careers in the middle of the pandemic and saw incredibly fast success, because within a pandemic, anytime that there is any time of crisis in the world, businesses get hyper-focused on continuing, right? Get hyper-focused on being able to sell and being able to continue what they're doing. And very, very unfortunately, please do not get me wrong, very unfortunately, they will often lay off full-time people. And I don't mean that they're hiring freelancers to take the place of full-time people. That's not what I'm saying here. We're not stealing people's jobs, not at all. But when they lay off one division and they need to focus on another division, it's so much easier for them to bring on extra help for that other division if they bring on freelancers, because they don't have to make the commitment of having them there full time. And that was just in the middle of a crisis. And within that crisis, companies more than ever realized how useful it is to work with, like we said with the article and the quote there, companies are realizing just how useful, how essential it is to be able to work with freelancers. They want that flexibility of working with freelancers. I'm sorry, Kate. So back to your numbers.
No worries. I was gonna say, very anecdotally as well, 2020 was my highest earning freelance year to date. Although I got to do my 2021. 2021 might have been just as well, but 2020 was just shy of $200,000 for me. And granted, obviously industry to industry and what your skill is, that might vary. But for a one-person freelancer, I was blown away that I could even saying that number still blows me away. I can't fathom it, that it was in the midst again. And there was a lot to grapple with money mindset, but that's a whole nother story of, seeing people lose their jobs while my business was thriving. So again, just to drive home that point. But numbers, let's get to the numbers. We keep promising numbers. Let's get to numbers. So
hey, one more thing. Just kidding. Give me the numbers.
Wait, what? More than 32.5 million businesses in the US. So that's the US alone. And then along with that, more than 1.5 million nonprofits. And so depending what you do, you might want to pitch nonprofits. We wouldn't recommend you working solely with nonprofits, but it is definitely an option. And the US numbers were kind of the easiest for us to find. So yes, could you work with businesses in any English speaking country if English is your native language? Yeah. We have students that do that all the time. They're in the UK working with companies in the US, or Canada with UK, or Australia with UK, or whatever.
Well, and even that said, if you are working with people, if you are working with people who speak English so that you can understand each other, or at least you have a means of understanding each other, you can work with clients in any country. I've worked with clients in Brazil. I do not speak Portuguese, but the people I was working with spoke English, were fluent enough that we could work together quite well. So it's, don't just, I think sometimes people think, oh, well, freelancing, gosh, I had a comment, I think I mentioned in an earlier episode, comment on an ad saying like, well, freelancing is great unless you live in the Midwest or in the South. And again, not true. And okay, Mr. commenting on ads in the middle of the night. But you're not limited by where you live. You are freelance. You can work with clients from anywhere. You are not limited by where you live. So yes, these are the US numbers, which, as Kate said, just easy for us to find. But the world is so much bigger than just the US, right?
And then to add to that, just for additional context of the volume of businesses. So 543 new businesses are started each month.
543,000.
Sorry. Businesses. Yes, I didn't put that. Yes. Just 543. 543,000. No, yes. There's zeros after that number.
Yeah. So 32 million to start out with, and then 543,000 new businesses starting every single month. That's just and that's a US number. Is that a US number or is that global?
That one might be global.
Yeah, I think that one might be global. Yeah. So, all right. Yes. Not every, you're not going to be able to work with every one of those companies because you may not speak the same language. And yes, those companies may not hire you to do whatever it is you do in your freelance field. But to maintain a very well-paying, like a six-figure salary, or I shouldn't say salary, six-figure income as a freelancer, you really need probably 4, 5, maybe 6 clients a month. So the actual opportunity is astronomical. The number of companies out there versus how many you actually need to work with to hit your financial goals. It's if you're not sitting here listening to this with your mouth agape, you should be. Go back and listen to those numbers again. There's a massive opportunity and a massive number of clients. In fact, if anything, you should feel maybe even a little bit overwhelmed.
Even if 1% of those businesses were to hire you, it's thousands of businesses that you could potentially work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, and the other thing to think about too with businesses is maybe they have full-time people that do what you do, yes, but maybe they also want to bring you on for a project, or they have on staff people and they need additional help to help those on staff people, whether for a project or an ongoing basis. Or, maybe they're hiring for a full-time position but are actually willing to work with a freelancer, or they just need a roster of freelancers that they can rely on and they know they can go back to if a need comes up. There's all these scenarios that we can't make assumptions about what's going on in the business. And so there's so much opportunity. There's maternity leaves, there's paternity leaves if the company is good. There's just so many possibilities with where you could fit in within an organization. And depending on the time, that might shift. It might, maybe they were hiring for someone and they thought they had a full-time need, and then they worked with you as a freelancer, and then they did hire someone, but they still need you on a project basis. Who knows? That things evolve. And so there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. You can't possibly know what's going on inside a company from the outside. If it's a project, that they're working on that hasn't been released to the public, you're not going to know about it. And most projects that a company generally doesn't say, hey, here's exactly what we're working on at every single moment. Companies don't do that because they don't want their competitors to know that. So to Kate's point, don't look at a company and go, oh, they don't need me, they're already doing this, or oh, this doesn't seem to be a priority, they don't need me. Do not, or
they
already have somebody on staff, yes, they don't need me. Do not make assumptions. Assumptions like that are only going to keep you from reaching out to clients and pitching with clients and potentially landing fantastic clients. Do not make assumptions. You're not in that company. You're not psychic. You don't know.
Yeah, there have been plenty of companies I've worked with that have on-staff people doing what I do, and plenty that don't. So there's just so much opportunity.
Yeah, you can't know until you reach out. Yeah, there's a massive, massive amount of opportunity. I can't even think of words to put to how much there is. So
because you can't wrap your head around 32.5 million. I mean, I don't even know what that looks like.
Yeah. And again, there are so many freelancers. If you're like, well, but they're freelancers. Yeah, but there are a lot of freelancers, so many freelancers that aren't out there pitching. They're waiting for jobs to show up on Upwork. They're waiting for jobs to show up on Freelancer. They're hoping that they're going to get referrals from, whereas you are going to be the one who crafts a really fantastic, value-based, helpful pitch and shows up in the inbox of someone who goes, oh, great pitch. Oh, great idea. Hey, we do have this project coming up. Let me give them a call. When you are proactive like that, you can take advantage of these opportunities. And then you leave all these quote unquote competitors, you leave them in the dust. They never even had a chance to compete with you. It was never a competition. Okay, so take a little bit of time to sit with just how massive the freelance world actually is and the freelance opportunities are, but don't take too much time because we have another episode coming up and we'll catch you right over there. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on this special Freelance Success Framework video series. If you found us through our free on-demand video training, then you already know 3 of the biggest secrets for building a dependable and scalable freelance business, and you are well on your way to success. If you haven't seen our free video training yet, be sure to check it out at freelancesuccesstraining.com. We'll see you there.